we were building apps before there was iPhone apps. At the time, it was such a novel idea that when I told people we build apps, they thought I meant app developers. I told them, hey, listen, in a few years, you're going to even be doing your banking through apps. And people chuckled. They thought it was joking. It's unbelievable now, but yeah.
Wherever you guys are watching this show, I would truly appreciate it if you follow or subscribe. It helps a lot with the algorithm. It helps us get bigger and better guests, and it helps us grow the team. Truly means a lot. Thank you guys for supporting, and here's the episode. All right, welcome back, guys. Digital Social Hour here with a very great guest for you guys today, Dr. Alex Mehr. How's it going, man?
Hey, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I got to know this because I've seen you're a doctor, obviously. What did you specialize in?
Mechanical engineering, complex systems. I have a PhD in engineering.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That sounds fancy, man. Where did you do that? In the States or?
Yeah, University of Maryland, College Park.
But you didn't grow up here?
No, I immigrated here after my undergrad. I was 21.
Okay. Where were you before that?
I grew up in Iran.
Wow.
Yeah.
That must have been a big change.
Huge.
Like, what was that like? Did you come with your family or did you come alone?
No, I came alone.
Wow, that must have been scary.
Money. Yeah. I couldn't speak the language.
Oh, you didn't even speak English?
No.
Dang.
I could read, but I couldn't converse. I couldn't understand, when I watched TV, I couldn't understand it. So
Wait, so what did you do in class?
It took me, I want to say 3 months.
3 months?
To pick it up. Yeah.
It's pretty quick.
Yeah, well, I had to.
Right. I've heard from people outside the US that English is one of the hardest languages to learn.
It is difficult. I mean, it is easy to read and write, but talking is difficult.
Right.
So,
yeah, that's what I've heard because there's so many nuances and weird words. Even I struggle sometimes with certain
cultural references are a big issue.
Yeah. So I noticed you've been on kind of a hiatus the past 3 to 4 years on social media. What's been going on in your world?
A lot of M&A.
Yeah.
Big brands. So it took a lot of energy. So I was just focusing on that.
I feel that. Yeah. When you say M&A, you were acquiring companies, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And your strategy there, you and Tai went after older brands that were out of business, right?
Iconic brands that are distressed. So the brand and brand awareness is strong. People like the brand, but the business model didn't work.
Right. And you did that for 3 to 4 years, but now you're on to some AI stuff, I see, right?
Correct, yeah.
Deal.ai.
That's
Can you
right.
talk more about that?
Yeah, so it's a big trend. There are a lot of baby boomers retiring, and baby boomers own about 40% of small businesses in the US. Roughly, depending on whose estimation you believe, there's going to be $6 to $10 trillion of business assets changing hands in the next 15 years or so. So it's a huge opportunity for business buyers, and these are cash flowing businesses. There's a supply glut of them coming to the market because of the interest rate environment, high interest rate. The multiples are also depressed, so you can buy these businesses relatively cheap as a multiple of their cash flow, which means you can buy these businesses and have the business operation pay for its own acquisition.
Wow.
So that's an opportunity that I don't think people want to pass up on, and especially with, I don't know how much you know about an acquisition M&A market, but it's very old school, especially in small businesses. There isn't really a tech platform that is doing it, helping people do it.
Yeah.
And with AI, it's a lot easier to do this nowadays. It can help with different aspects of this process. So we're building essentially the tech platform plus the support system for people to do this at scale.
Wow. I really like that idea because I sold a company and I had no idea what I was doing in that process because they don't really teach it.
Not at all.
Like no one teaches you how to sell a company.
No, and if you're doing a big transaction, like if you're buyer and seller of a company that is, let's say, $50 million plus, there's obviously investment bankers that can help you with that. But if you're talking about $1 million, $2 million acquisition, or selling a company that is in that range, like let's say 1 to 4, it's very manual. The brokers, like, they don't have any tools. There are almost never there's a data room.
Right.
So it's a process that can help a lot. I mean, that can improve a lot.
Yeah. So is this something you experienced when you sold your dating app Zoosk for a lot of money?
Not really, because in that scenario, we had like sophisticated bankers. It was a $258 million transaction. So this pain point doesn't exist for companies, like I said, like let's say above 20 million, there's always an investment banker. And they're like professionals and they do exactly, this for a living. They have data, they build data rooms and all that. It's when you go to small businesses, which is the majority of American businesses.
Right.
And there are like, 29 million of them in the United States. That's when there is really no system, no solution. And because it's not worth the investment banker's time. It doesn't make sense. So that's where technology can make the most amount of difference, in my opinion.
Wow.
By helping that process run smooth.
That's cool. So what's your strategy? Are you looking to acquire businesses in the 5 to 20 million range, stack those up?
No, it's smaller. I wouldn't say this. Well, you can obviously do bigger acquisitions and all that, but there's a break. So if you go higher in price point, you're competing with institutional private equity firms that buy. Therefore, things are higher price as a multiple of revenue. So I think where the sweet spot is nowadays are companies that are, let's say, I want to say even like a few $100,000 purchase price, like 300, 400K, all the way to 4 million. And there are a ton of financing options available for entrepreneurs to buy them. Most people don't know about it. Obviously, the most well-known one is SBA. It's literally designed for this kind of acquisition, helping Americans own these kind of businesses.
Right.
And you can pick up these companies at a relatively low multiple. Multiple means annual net income of the company and multiple of that as a purchase price. So you can buy like lower end 1.5 times annual.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's not bad. So you make your money back after a year and a half.
Correct. And, higher end that I like to see is 3.5. So it's like 3.5 years.
Right.
So you use bank financing plus some deposit, and you acquire the business and you run the business and have the business pay for its own acquisition price. That's
wow. So you're not putting up any of your own capital?
Little.
That's actually insane. So the risk seems pretty low.
Well, the business can go wrong.
Right.
We all know that.
So you really what are some ways to vet the business to make sure when the takeover happens, the revenue stays the same or around the same?
So it's an art and science. And part of what we are building on our platform is help with the science piece, which is essentially what are the questions you've got to ask and get the answers to. And that's AI can help with that. But that's not enough. So you collect the data, you analyze the data, you obviously get professionals to help you. But then a little bit, the art piece of it is the part that I'm trying to help the entrepreneurs myself. It's like talking to the sellers, meeting them, understanding the reason they're selling. And a lot of times I like businesses that the entrepreneur founder has been in it for decades. They're in their late 60s, 70s. I have some that are in 80s. And that they treated this business like they're a family member. So, the team they took care of the business. They never thought about selling it. So, they ran it like it is there forever. So they didn't like put weird things on it, didn't do a lot of weird stuff. And that's the profile that I'm the most comfortable with, essentially.
Right. That makes sense. Because they've been in the business for decades, the money's not going to go anywhere.
It's exactly. Like they didn't so there's always going to be skeletons in the closet once you buy a company. But I feel like that kind of acquisition has the least amount of those surprises.
Right.
So.
And do you care about the industry, or are you going after certain industries, or you just look at the numbers and treat it as is?
So we are industry agnostic, so we do everything, but I tell you where you can find really good deals are low-tech service businesses, like, for example, subcontractors, plumbing companies, consulting companies, IT consulting companies, marketing companies. Those IT consulting companies would be a high tech, but most of them are low tech.
Right. So service-based companies.
Yeah, so the sector that I really like, it's called tech-enabled services.
Mhm.
So they have a particular tech stack or product that they insert into the customer's ecosystem, and because of that, they're very sticky. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
And then they make their money from servicing
Got it.
that company.
They have a high retention rate.
Much higher.
Got it.
So if you deploy it, even a small piece of technology into the customer's ecosystem, you have that customer for a long time.
So like Intel with their chips.
Exactly.
Yeah, they've been in all the computers for years, right?
Yes. Yeah, it doesn't have to be like hardware. A lot of times it's software. The best example, if you look at really big companies, is Palantir, which is it has government agencies that is as its customer, and it essentially is software plus service.
Yeah. I like any business that sells to the government.
Yeah.
Because you know that money's coming in.
Yes.
Yeah. When I was selling during the pandemic, I sold some PPE to some government organizations, and I mean they got unlimited money, so it doesn't even matter for them.
Yeah.
But you mentioned Puerto Rico earlier. What's it like living there? Because I've heard mixed things, man. I'm not gonna lie.
Whatever you heard.
Some people go there and they don't like it. You know what I mean? Are you one of those people?
I'm an introvert, so I can be inside my office and I don't care where I live. My wife doesn't like it, so that's much. It's like it's a little bit difficult to get. You live on a small island,
so island fever is what they call it, right?
Exactly.
So you feel kind of trapped.
Yeah, I really like it. I mean, it's a great country and great people and all that. If you're an extrovert, you want to consider like splitting time, so you don't feel trapped.
Yeah. Have you always been an introvert?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Your whole family?
Yeah, I want to say.
Yeah. I've kind of mixed at different phases of my life. I've gone extrovert, introvert. But I've never
ambivert is a term.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can switch back and forth.
Oh, interesting. I never knew that. Yeah, I can turn it on when I need to, you know what I mean? Depends on the situation I'm in.
That actually makes you a functional introvert.
Okay.
So I can turn it on too.
Got it.
So but it takes energy.
Yeah.
And I prefer not to.
You seem like you're very cognizant of conserving energy.
Yes.
Is that something you think about often?
Yes. Yes. The actual term I use is brain damage. I try to minimize brain damage. So brain damage means when every time you work on a problem and that problem people think of it as time. I think of it as the amount of like draining power it puts on my brain. So I like things that are straightforward and I see the problem, I can solve. Which is, if inside a business or like a science problem, that's perfect. But when you're talking about buying a company, you have to deal with the emotions of the seller and the buyer and all that. So that's that's why I go for acquisitions that I fully understand.
Right.
I understand everyone's incentives, and you can minimize the brain damage.
Interesting. So you believe we have almost a finite amount of energy?
Yes. Call it willpower. I mean, there's quite a bit of studies on that, right? So your willpower is limited, your energy is limited. If you use a lot of your willpower in the morning, by night you've heard the term decision fatigue, right?
Right.
So it's the same thing. It's just you get tired of it.
Interesting.
And you become sloppy. So
what's like the optimal hours you're putting in a day before you see fatigue?
I think, I work pretty much every waking hour I'm working. So I'm a workaholic in that sense, but to take breaks. So the way I do it, I don't know if you've heard the concept of time blocking, especially things that are, you don't want to do, like paperwork.
Right.
Okay. So the best way to handle those is to spend like an hour, half an hour, 1 hour, whatever in the morning on it, and just give it the amount of time that you allocate to it. Let's say 1 hour. And then if it's not done by the time is up, it's fine. You do it tomorrow. So that's how I do it. And then there are a lot of things that I like building products I really like.
Right.
So they don't feel like brain damage to me.
Got it.
And then I fill out the rest of my day with those kinds of stuff.
Interesting. So you probably dedicated, 5-10 years to becoming a doctor. What was that transition like to business? Because that's a very rare transition, I feel like, once you're a doctor.
Yeah, growing up, I always wanted to be a scientist. and even when I was 5, if you ask me. And I grew up in a family that valued science and education more than business. In fact, my parents looked down on business. So they were like, okay, so you make enough money to make like middle class lifestyle, and anything above that is excess and it's not okay. Focus on education. Like that was like education was ranked higher, way higher than money and business. Definitely the term business was not a thing I grew up with. My first exposure actually was in grad school at the University of Maryland. And I saw an ad. I don't know how much you know about grads. Have you taken it?
I've heard of it. I've never made it that far.
Yeah. So in grad school, you essentially live. I mean, a lot of graduate students, they do research work or teaching work to pay their way, and it's not a lot.
Okay.
So you're always starving. So I saw an ad for free pizza at the University of Maryland's Entrepreneurship Club, and that's why I went there. And I'm standing in the back, eating pizza, and I'm watching these entrepreneurs presenting their ideas. I'm like, wait a second, I can do this myself. So that was actually my first real exposure. And I didn't really dabble in business until I graduated, and then I worked as a scientist for 2 years. And then I was like, okay, maybe I should try it. And it's a one-way street.
Yeah, you don't go back.
You don't go back. And honestly, I like business, don't get me wrong. But my happiest days in my life were my scientist days.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it was a lot of fun.
Wow.
So,
that's fascinating. Because you weren't making much as a scientist.
No, not at all. I mean, it's enough to live an okay life.
Right.
There's a lot. It's funny if I go back in life, and people ask me that question. I'm like, if I go back in life, and I think I started when I was 25 or 26 as an entrepreneur. If I go back to that moment, maybe I don't become an entrepreneur.
Wow. Yeah. And you're so successful. So hearing you say this is really interesting to me.
I mean, it is. Look, I like science. I like scientific thinking, and it's just you do that for a living. It's actually a good life. So.
Yeah, I feel like if you're really passionate about it, you could put the money to. I mean, they make decent money. I mean, so I guess you could. But I mean, having experienced what you have, making tens of millions, it's just interesting to see you.
Yeah, money is not everything, right?
Right.
So it's like, you can if you don't earn it in the first place, you never know what it feels like.
Right. So did you have a battle with your parents because they looked down on business when you told them you were transitioning? They must have been pissed.
Oh yeah, 100%. So I was doing when I started my first startup. I was also doing my MBA at Berkeley, and when I told my parents I'm dropping out because I started my first company that became Zeus.
Oh, that was your first company?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I had raised my seed round already. I had like employees, and I was at the same time doing multiple things. And I told my parents, I'm going to drop out of school. I can't finish it. And I dropped out last semester. So I had literally 1 semester to go. And my dad called me. He's like, son, is it money? Because I can give you more money. Just stay in school. I'm like, no, Dad. This is like, this is my new calling, and I'm going to do it. So they hated it.
And how many years did it take for them to accept it?
I would say 2-3 years.
Yeah, that must have been rough, man.
Yeah.
But the fact that you started Zoosk as your first company, I mean, how much of that was luck, you think?
A lot of it. So I really think luck plays a big role. Now, there are ways to maximize your luck. Just flip the coin more often. So try more ideas. End of the day, it is luck. Nobody can fully predict if a product, especially a new product in a new environment, is going to have product market fit, traction. And the best way, in my opinion, that you can maximize your luck is to launch a lot of products and see what works. And the ones that are not working, you just cut. So
that's a good point, because people think they have the winning product, but you never know.
100%. It's so difficult to.
Yeah. So those first years, I mean, you were bootstrapping, right?
We bootstrapped. Actually, I raised capital for that company relatively quickly.
Oh, pre-revenue?
No, post-revenue.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of getting to revenue quickly and then raising capital because you want to get traction.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not always possible. Like, let's say you have a medical device startup, it's just not possible.
Right.
Yeah, but if you have a tech or a internet type company, you want to get to traction quickly, and then your life becomes easier, even if you need to raise capital.
Yeah,
so
that's cool. I agree with that. I see these companies raising money pre-revenue, and I don't understand it.
Especially in a tech company. What are you waiting for? Why don't you just generate some revenue?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It just seems like such a big bet.
Yeah.
How have you seen the dating app kind of change or evolve since you got involved?
Yeah. So we were one of the first movers. So to give you an idea, we were building apps before there was iPhone App Store.
Wow.
So we were building it for Facebook and MySpace at the time.
I remember those apps on Facebook.
Yeah. So and then shortly after we launched Zeus, iPhone App Store opened and we were ready. So we launched our iPhone. At the time, it was such a novel idea that when I told people we build apps, they thought I meant appetizers.
That's funny.
So yeah. So and I remember I was actually giving a talk at a conference, and I said at the time everything was .com, right? So I told them, hey, listen, in a few years you're going to even be doing your banking through apps. And people chuckled; they thought it was joking. It's unbelievable now, and that's how early we were, and we were the dominant dating app for quite a few years.
Yeah, my mom used your app, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so did you ever get on the App Store eventually, or you sold before that?
Are you interested in coming on the Digital Social Hour podcast as a guest? Well, click the application link below in the description of this video. We are always looking for cool stories, cool entrepreneurs to talk to about business and life. Click the application link below, and here's the episode, guys.
Oh no, we were number one online dating app in terms of gross revenue for years. Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, we were actually top 4, if I'm not mistaken. There was a study that looked at all the revenue generating apps across all categories, and we were like top 5.
That's wild. And were you implementing AI back then to match people together?
We had what we call, yes. So I dabbled in AI when I was in grad school. It was not anywhere close to what it is today.
Right.
But in 2008, when we were growing our app, I quickly realized that what I call like survey or questionnaire based online dating doesn't quite work because people cannot tell you with certainty what kind of person they're looking for. In fact, there's almost no correlation between what people say they're looking in a partner versus who they end up with.
Wow.
It's and there's studies on this.
That's crazy.
So we quickly realized that the best way to actually predict who's a good match for someone is to look at who they're trying to interact with and then who's actually interacting back with them. So we had this algorithm that looked at what we call deep conversations. Like it essentially looked at two people having multiple messages back and forth. And based on that predicted in the future what kind of people to show them. So
interesting. So you would analyze their messages with other people?
It's not message itself. It's who they're interacting with.
Got it. Wow. Yeah, those sites were always interesting. I saw my mom on them. You could filter how much their salary was. Yeah. Yeah. So you could just toggle how much they make and a list of people would pop up.
I tell you a funny story. So when we started, this is again before even iPhone had App Store. So I'm talking 2007.
Yeah.
So we started collecting data on who is responding with, talking with whom, and like seems to be a successful match. And I built a simple regression model that looked at can I predict who's going to match with whom based on attributes they put in their profile. And it was funny because for men to be successful, one of the most the most important attributes was height.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
so
that makes sense.
You will do well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of girls talk about the height stuff, so that makes sense to me.
Height. And then the next one is income.
Right. So height and income, those were the most important too.
Yes. And so if you want to be successful and you're not very tall,
Mhm.
you have to make a lot of money to make up for it.
Or you could get that surgery where you've seen that one? You could have 4 inches.
Yeah. That is, sounds weird.
Yeah. So were you verifying the incomes when people put it on the site?
No.
Oh, no.
It was self-declared. And,
So people definitely lied.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And there is an actual problem in online dating. Later on, we launched a feature. We were ahead of everybody else on this to do photo verification.
Mm.
So at least they look like what they say they look like.
Right.
And then we had user feedback if they really lied or they were a terrible person.
Yeah.
So
I'm reporting that guy for
Yeah.
lying.
exactly.
I heard people would lie about their ages on those sites too.
Age 2, yeah.
Yeah. It'd be like 7 years off.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
The height, age, income.
Yeah. But now I feel like Tinder makes you upload your ID or something.
Yeah. But
Something.
people lie about their height on driving license too.
Wait, you could do that? I thought they measure you. Maybe they,
No, they
no,
don't.
they don't.
They don't. So
Wow. I should have said I was like
Wait.
6'8".
And weight also. If I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken, there's weight under to and stuff to claim. Nobody weighs you at DMV.
That'd be so embarrassing. You saw there's some airlines that are going to start weighing you now?
I have heard of it.
Yeah, that's funny, man.
Yeah.
Because I guess it's some of the flights are too heavy, so
Right.
it's costing them more money.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So, are you mainly focused on Deal AI right now? Like
That's
that's 100% your time now.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
about family, other activities?
Yeah, I mean, family is, I set aside time for family always, but work-wise, deal AI,
So you see a lot of potential now.
a lot of it.
Do you
So
wanna-
I think we are just seeing the tip of baby boomers retiring.
Mhm.
And I find these businesses very attractive. I mean, they may not be sexy like
Yeah.
Silicon Valley startups, but they've had decades of cash flow history, good team in place, like a hold on their market, whatever it is. And there's a lot of potential. So
I agree. And I feel like a lot of these baby boomer companies, the owners have no idea how to sell their company.
Right.
Like you never really hear about, oh, I acquired a plumbing business.
yes, and not only that, it's probably their first and last time
Right.
that there's something company.
Yeah.
So it's very important to them what they're doing, but they have zero experience. Not always, but a
Yeah.
lot of times.
Some of these unsexy companies, man, they pull in some decent numbers.
Yes.
Like you'd be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, you can find like subcontractors doing $2 million of EBITDA net income,
Yeah.
and you can buy that recently. It's out there.
Yeah, that's super impressive.
Yeah.
A couple of your clips I wanted to talk about that I saw. You said on another podcast, I believe it was 4 years ago, you said making 10K a month is really easy.
Super easy.
So you still feel that way?
It's actually can make more now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, I mean, I agree with you, but I feel like a lot of people watching would take some offense to that. You know what I mean?
But why? It's like, look, there's so much money out there and people looking for products and services that improves their lives or some aspect. It's pretty easy, especially in a service business.
Mhm.
So depends on the person, obviously. So if you have no skills and you know nothing about it, then maybe it's difficult. But then your step one is to go gain skills.
Mhm.
Go work somewhere where you can gain those skills, and then it should be easy. So
And it doesn't matter like the age, gender, or anything. You think everyone's capable?
yeah, I think so.
Wow. Because I feel like I think the average salary is what, like 50K a year or something?
50, 60, 55, I think.
So that's what, 6K a month? I'm terrible
Yeah.
at math, but yeah, 10K. I mean, I just feel like the average person would be pissed seeing that clip.
But why? But why? Is it better for people to know that it's possible or for them to have this self-limiting belief that it's not possible?
Yeah,
I think people who think they can't do it, it's just a self-limiting belief.
it definitely is. So you mentioned skills to develop. What are some high income skills you think people should look into?
Definitely engineering, marketing, two that are easily attainable.
Mhm.
Then sales, if you have the personality for it. And then everything else. I mean, people learn finance. They can work as freelance accountant, for example. Any role that you can think of in the
Nice.
company.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. You can be an HR consultant if you're good with people.
Mhm.
You just tell me who the person is, and there's probably a path to make.
Yeah, everyone's good at something, right?
Yes.
So you can find ways to monetize it.
Yeah.
So your family placed, heavy importance on education, and that took a toll on you. What are your views on education, like with your kids?
Yeah. So education is good if you're clear about why you're going to school.
Mhm.
So let's say you want to be an engineer or a scientist or a medical professional. Okay. The only path is the school, and it makes sense. If you want to get into business, okay, getting a degree in English doesn't help you. so it's just not needed.
Yeah.
So I would it's just a matter of like, don't push kids blindly into an education system that just wastes their time, loads them with debt, and then gives them nothing at the end.
Right.
That's there's a time and place.
Piece of paper they get that they'll probably lose in the closet eventually.
Yeah. Read history or whatever, and read internet. Read a book. So.
Now let's talk networking, because you built an extensive network. You're really good at networking despite being an introvert.
Right.
How did you develop those skills?
It's a little bit of being methodical about it, in the sense that you can do it in a Google sheet or an Excel sheet. Always identify people that you want to remain in touch with, and just keep in touch with them on a frequent basis. It doesn't take that much time. It's like a text message, hey, thinking of you, this is something I read that reminded you of that. That reminded me of you. That's a simple way.
Got it.
So it's just as you're going about your daily life, you see an article that is relevant to someone that you know, just send it to them.
So that's for already established connections, but what about new connections getting on their radar?
Well, same thing. So networking events, even though I've never been good at it, I think my approach has been essentially it's kind of like, think of it as a chicken and egg problem. So if you succeed a little bit in business, people come to you, and network is built, and then you can succeed more in business, right?
Right.
So it's not like, oh, I wait until I'm a billionaire, then I network. And it's not like, okay, I have nothing. I don't even know what I'm doing with my life. I'm a total bum in my mom's basement.
Yeah.
And why don't people talk to me? It doesn't work that way either. So it's like a little bit of build your life a little bit, network, build your life more, network.
I definitely agree with that, because there's certain stages where you have to network to get to the next level, and then there's certain stages where you don't need it as much.
Absolutely. At the beginning, you don't need anything.
Right.
So
yeah, you got to grind. I'd say make that first 6 figures,
right,
and then network, and then keep repeating that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Speaking of network, Tai Lopez, how did that happen?
We met at at an online dating conference, industry conference. So we were both on a panel.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this was a while ago.
A long time ago. I want to say 2009 or 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've known him for a long time, and you didn't end up doing business for 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. So
Nice.
We were friends. He's obviously a very smart dude. And we talked about books. That's how we connected. Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. And that's how we became friends. We became
Nice.
friends for many years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what made you want to take that friendship into business? Because that's a tricky thing
It is
to
a tricky
deal with.
I think we started with mentor box, and and it was a natural fit. So
Yeah, that was a revolutionary subscription
yes,
product at the time.
yes,
You guys were like one of the first subscription companies, right?
into that. The concept of capturing books in the form of a video was invented by us, basically.
Wow.
So it's like, that's Netflix for book videos.
Yeah. How many people were signed up at the peak?
Over 100,000, I would say.
Holy crap. So every month they would get a book in the mail? Is that how it worked?
So it was physical at the beginning, physical boxes at the beginning. I didn't like it, and I tell you why. Because what happens is that people feel like they're accumulating junk. So they don't read the previous box and all that, and it's adding up, and they feel.
Right.
So we went into a digital model.
Got it.
So
So ebooks.
ebooks, yeah.
Yeah. And
Videos.
the physical one probably couldn't be scaled either.
Yeah,
It's 100,000 copies.
Yeah, it feels good shipping books to people. Like
Yeah.
it's just like we ordered a ton of books all the time and we're shipping it. So I felt like we were doing something good for the world.
Right.
But it has that problem of
Yeah.
people are paying for it on a monthly basis. Physical books and shipping is expensive. And when people aren't reading it, because it wasn't just books, it was books plus summary pamphlets and workbooks and things like that. So it was a whole package. So if you were not using it, it would just accumulate, and it feels like you're accumulating junk.
Yeah. Because reading a book a month for some people is pretty quick.
Yes.
Yeah.
2 a month.
Oh, 2 a month. Wow. Yeah. I don't know how you and Ty read 1 a day.
It's not about the speed of reading. It's like the feeling of people have they have lives,
Yeah.
and maybe they don't have time in a particular month, which is most people.
Right.
And then the moment you feel like it's accumulating, that's when you want to go cancel your subscription.
For sure. Which books really stand out to you that you've read that left a huge impact on your life?
I'm gonna name a book, but it's not gonna be very popular. I think The Selfish Gene was.
I haven't heard that one.
It's about evolution
Mhm.
and how a lot of things that we do on a daily basis are driven by our genetic disposition to do those things for the gene itself to propagate.
Mhm.
Meaning, at least the biological system, some people are spiritual and all that, but the biological system is not designed to maximize your happiness. It's not designed to maximize your satisfaction. It's designed to maximize the probability of our genes propagating. Okay. So, and then once you understand that, at least at a biological level, you understand people. So you understand why people do what they do. A
Interesting.
lot of times. Yeah.
Wow. So it's a lot of subconscious thinking then.
A lot of it. I would argue that 90% of things that you do on a daily basis, I just made up that number, but that's roughly,
Sounds good.
yeah, 90% is driven by some genetic code.
Really?
Yeah.
Holy crap. That's kind of scary to think about.
Yeah.
So you're only controlling 10%?
If that.
Dude. Because
Yeah.
I feel like I'm in control of my life, but then
Yes.
I hear people saying you brush your teeth in the same way.
Right.
And now when I brush my teeth, I'm like, oh my God, I'm literally doing that.
Yeah. So I tell you, like, things like greed, envy, fear, happiness, right? They're all emotions that are informed with that are created for a genetic purpose. Like, they play a role. So when you feel yourself happy or sad or angry, you think there's always an external stimuli, but that's not why you're reacting. It's just you're encoded in you to like things or not like something, because that increases the likelihood of you succeeding in propagating your genes.
Wow, that's actually crazy to think about.
Yeah, that's
So we don't control what we like, basically.
correct.
So is that sort of like, where does that come from? Is that from past life trauma or something, you think?
No, it's literally genetically encoded. So
Wow.
you have you feel hungry
Mhm.
because people that did not feel hunger, they would not go pursue food. Therefore, they will not have enough calories. They will not survive. They will not propagate. So those
Right.
genes got eliminated. So you're genetically programmed to like having food. You're genetically programmed to want to have sex and have kids. You're genetically programmed to bond with people around you, even though you think, there might. But it's like essentially, it's like you're building a tribe so that if there's enemy attacking you, you can defend. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's like you don't think about the underlying reason.
Yeah. You just do it.
Yeah, you just do it because comes from tens of thousands of years of evolution.
That's crazy. So are there ways to change this genetic modification, or is
Very
it
difficult.
Very difficult.
Very difficult.
What's
We are mostly, like, I think of it as a lot of it is genetic disposition.
Mhm.
Some of it is programmed early years in your life. And then you have two factors against you. If you're like over 23, 24, that prevents you from changing. One is genetic disposition, you cannot change that. Second is your brain plasticity decreases significantly with age. So it's very difficult to change your habits.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's crazy. You mentioned finding happiness earlier. What's been your journey with that? It takes people their whole lives sometimes.
Yeah, and I have a very specific thing about it. I actually don't maximize for happiness. Happiness is a misinformed feeling.
Really?
So it is triggered for reasons that may not be relevant. So so I try to ignore it. Now, having said that, I'm not a machine. Right? So
You're not an AI?
I'm not an AI yet. Before I connect Neuralink. But at least right now, the way I think about it is like, okay, so why do I feel happy or sad about something? And does it really matter? So I try to ignore the feeling. It's
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a crazy way of thinking about
Yeah,
it.
I don't try to fix it. I try to ignore it.
Really?
Yeah. It's just like sadness the same thing, happiness the same thing, fear the same thing, envy the same thing.
So no emotion, you just try to ignore all of
I
them.
try to ignore it. But now I'm not saying I don't have it. I don't
Right.
have those emotions. I have
You just
it.
don't show it.
I try it. I even show it sometimes because I don't have full control over it. Like you don't have full control over your emotions.
Got
I
it.
just try to tell myself that emotion isn't as important.
Wow.
So, and I try to not pay attention to it to the extent that I can.
Wow. Therapists must hate you.
Yeah, I've never been to a therapist. I've
Yeah.
never been to church.
I don't think it'd work on you.
No, it would be, yeah. I'm like, you can't play mind tricks on me, man.
But how does your wife and your friends feel about that? Because they
Yeah.
want you to open up a bit?
Yeah, but I'm not like that. Like I don't like if I feel like I fucked something up, like I'm mad at myself, I try to analyze it and then I try to put it behind. So
Got it.
I don't think talking to people, I shouldn't say that because there are a lot of people who go to shrinks and it's just not for me.
Right. Yeah, I've tried therapy or whatever, and it's interesting, but like you said, the subconscious is 90% or whatever it is, so they really can't do much if you think about it.
Yeah, and look, none of us have iron minds, right? So we don't even understand our own brains.
Right.
It's just, and I for sure cannot control it.
Mhm.
Okay. But I can do my best to tell myself that those feelings are not important. So, like, they're misplaced.
Right.
They're based on some old genetic code that is running in your brain that was designed for a completely different type of living. So now in the modern world, those feelings are misfiring, in my opinion. So
Interesting.
So they're sort of not relevant. I mean, if there was a button, we could just turn them off.
Yeah. So when you hear these terms like, anger issues, depression, anxiety, do you think those are choices?
No, I wouldn't say they're choices. I'm saying the way I deal with those is I try to ignore, like minimize their importance in my life. Okay. They're definitely actually not choices. They are, like I said, they're genetic programming combined with your upbringing, combined with external stimuli that causes those emotions. And you almost have no control over it.
Right.
What I'd like to think I have some control over is how much importance I place on those feelings. So that's what I can control.
That makes sense. Yeah. Were there any periods of your entrepreneurial journey that were really low points? Because people just see the stuff on social media, but every entrepreneur I know, high highs and low lows.
Yeah, 100%. And there are times, my first startup, I think we practically thought we will shut down at least 3 times. So
wow, Zoosk?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, we have at least 3 times.
Man.
That I can think of.
That's crazy to think about because you ended up selling it for so much.
Yeah, it's like reviving it out of like essentially death, to a certain death.
Yeah.
So and that puts definitely leaves a mark.
Right.
And again, it's like going back, I'm like, okay, at the time at least, it was like really impacting me. My health was like even hit by it. Like that was just so much stress. And going back, I'm like, well, did my emotional reaction help with resolving it? The answer is no. So for example, fear as an entrepreneur, right? So you don't die if a business goes down. It's not like your life is in jeopardy.
Right.
Okay. So fear is a misplaced feeling. Having said that, fear drives you to look for solutions. Okay. So maybe a little bit of it is okay, but you can't overemphasize it. Okay. Because it's not like your life is on the line.
Right.
So especially in this country, pretty much you won't die from hunger. So, I mean, some people, it's not like everybody, but it's hard.
Right.
So, it's the way I think about it is like entrepreneurial emotions that come with entrepreneurship. You don't want to completely ignore them, but you don't want to overemphasize it. So,
yeah, I like that because people are really fearful, but at the end of the day, their life for the most part isn't on the line.
yes, 100%.
Like we used to be
Yes.
back when we were in wars and stuff.
Yes, yeah. So entrepreneurship back then would have been something like, oh, there's not enough crop of potatoes in my village to feed my family. Let's all get together and just conquer like the land next door, right? So, so there's actual life or death scenario in that. But in what we do, it's like nobody dies.
Absolutely. Did you feel kind of lost after you sold the company? Because I've heard this with founders that exit, they don't know what to do for
100%.
Yeah.
In fact, it's probably the worst feeling that an entrepreneur can have is after selling a business. So it feels like you could have done more. It feels like you let a story end without putting a good ending at it. So it just feels like it's empty.
Wow. And how long did you feel like that?
It was I was against selling the company. So but so I want to say a few months.
A few months? Yeah. Okay, that's on the shorter end from what I've heard, but it's still a long time.
Yeah, well, I kept myself busy with the next stuff.
Right. So. That's what we do as entrepreneurs. We try to distract ourselves, right?
Yeah, it leaves a hole in you, and then you fill it up with the next business.
Right.
Yeah.
Man, so it's been fun. Anything you want to close off with or promote?
I think people should check out Deal.ai, so that's my shameless plug. And I think, going back to one thing you said earlier, I think people thinking that they cannot succeed in life is because whatever reason, okay? Whatever, like doesn't matter what. Put a reason there. I cannot win because blank, okay? Is literally a self-limiting belief. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. We live in a world of abundance, and especially with technology, and especially younger people, should be able to make a good living by focusing, trying, and taking advantage of the tools that are available to everybody.
I love that. Those self-limiting beliefs, you don't even notice them, but you really manifest those.
100%.
Yeah.
It's like, what doesn't matter. I don't want to hear what your reason is. If you say, I cannot succeed because blank, it doesn't matter you put it. That becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So stop thinking that.
Yeah, and I used to think that way too. That's why I can speak from the heart on this. Once I stopped doing that, my life exploded.
Right.
Yeah, so great advice. Thanks for watching, guys. Digital Social Hour, as always. I'll see you next time.